Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell, everyone. The $2 trillion CARES Act passed in March expired at the end of July with a chunk of change going unused. And today, lawmakers on the House Financial Services Committee are tackling the issue of how to support local governments, including the option to use those leftover CARES funds. Joining me now is Republican Representative Warren Davidson, who's serving Ohio's 8th Congressional District. Congressman, it's good to have you with me today. What are you proposing happens with these unused funds?
Yeah, so we introduced the Flexibility for States and Localities Act, and really that came from feedback really as early as May, where the good news is that the virus isn't the one that we feared that it would be. We were talking originally when we passed this legislation about a fear that this would kill as many as 2 million Americans. And in Ohio, for example, it's killed far too many people. It's a real public health threat. But as we gave money to states and localities to deal with the virus, they're coming back and saying, we either need a longer deadline or we need flexibility to use this for other things. So while they have some COVID expenses, their expenses for direct COVID-19 costs aren't as big as they feared. They have lost a ton of revenue due to the economic response, though.
So what is the budget cap that you've seen, at least your state of Ohio, witness, and how could this be deployed within the state?
So, for example, when Ohio received their money originally, they had $4.6 billion. So when I spoke with the governor, the treasurer, state legislators, they said, the biggest thing we could use is flexibility for putting that money to use. So as you think about school districts going back to school, they had a lot of COVID-19 responses, and some of them used all of the money that the state legislature gave them out of that $4.6 billion. But many of those dollars are still at the state, and far more would say, yeah, we would like to also be able to respond in a different way because, and that's true whether you're talking about law enforcement, first responders, or in other ways, the lost budget. So this would give them flexibility to use those funds for, frankly, anything that was budgeted except, say funding pensions or anything that would be a violation of a federal statute like the Hyde Amendment or something.
Many people, many Americans, certainly those who are still unemployed, still waiting on another stimulus package, trying to get more unemployment benefits in the wake of this. And we got still those concerning numbers on jobless claims earlier this morning. How close are we to getting another stimulus bill passed through Congress?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of difference. Frankly, Nancy Pelosi's never really made a counteroffer. She stated her $3.3 trillion number and seems pretty immovable. And so as we debate about how much more money to print, and it's really printed, when you borrow money, there's a lender. There's no lender here. So my statement and part of the purpose of the Flexibility for States and Localities Act is before we print more money, we should make use of the money that's already been printed, which is roughly $4 trillion that's been put into the economy. So the real debate right now is whether to go from $0 to $3.5 trillion. And the only thing that's got momentum is maybe somewhere between $1 trillion and $3.5 trillion worth of newly printed money. And so far, Speaker Pelosi hasn't made a counteroffer to numerous offers from the Senate. And the president intervened and did some executive actions. We'll see whether there can be a consensus. I just hope that we can keep the country running with a continuing resolution ahead of October 1st.
Congressman, how much is unused from the previous packages?
I think around $400 billion right now. Total. And so there are a lot of people that feel like that's not enough. But if there's a consensus on how to make use of the money that's already there, why not start with that?
So you think that should exclusively go to states to help with getting teachers and kids back to school and more of these flexible approaches that you're suggesting?
No, I think the money that's already appropriated to states should be given more flexibility. And then in terms of dollars that go beyond that, we have a great program that's available to be used, which is the Main Street Lending Program. And right now, the reluctance to use that is people don't want to sign up to borrow money, loans against good collateral, when there may still be grants coming. And so I think that, we're in a state where there are certain impacted industries, and states really do have a very different situation. So, in Ohio, our situation is different than in New York or New Jersey. And frankly, in South Dakota, it's different still. So I think we need to provide maximum flexibility to allow the states to respond differently. But we also have to avoid the moral hazard of states simply saying, well, we can stay closed as long as we want because there is no economic consequence here. And while it feels like there's not a big economic consequence, when you print money and put it into the economy, it effectively destroys the value of all the other dollars in circulation. So there will be a price to pay for this. In the interim, we've provided some essential economic stability, but we really shouldn't consider the idea that we could just print money haphazardly. That's what's resonating with people as I'm out and about talking to folks. Small business owners keep saying we've done over 100 meetings in the district since the August break started. And when I meet with business owners and when I meet with people who work in businesses, the payroll protection plan really extended an important lifeline to them. And that cash got past all the government filters and directly to businesses, kept people on payrolls, and it's really made a difference. The same with people who got direct money, it's really made a difference for them and their families. But if you can keep the economy turned off and print money, people do get the moral hazard of just printing the money. And there's been a lot of support for the creation of the Sound Money Caucus, which I led and have had colleagues like Andy Barr, Lee Zeldin, Chairman Brady, and others join me in. And sound money really is a key undercovered topic in the financial sector.
Quickly here, Congressman, do you think that the president can get reelected if there is not another stimulus package?
I absolutely believe the president will be reelected, and frankly, he's the guy that's led the way where Congress has failed to reach an agreement on what, if anything, to do at this point. You know, there have been numerous actions by Congress up to now, but we've been stalled really all summer on trying to come to an agreement on anything. And part of that, frankly, in my view, is Nancy Pelosi doesn't want there to be another agreement, and she's withheld. She's never even made a counteroffer on her original proposal, which had zero input, frankly, even from a lot of Democrats. So I think a lot of people in Congress would like to reach a deal, but the president, with the authority that he does have, has made the maximum use of it, maybe stretched it. But I think he's sent a clear signal to the American people that he wants to respond, and I think he will be reelected.
Okay, but I need you to weigh in because pretty notably, I mean, we rarely ever see an about face from the president, and in a humbling moment for him, he had to address allegations, comments that he made that are cited in Bob Woodward's forthcoming book about the president, that the president downplayed the virus. Let's take a listen to this soundbite quickly.
You went through a pivot on this to, oh my God, the gravity is almost inexplicable and unexplainable.
Well, I think, Bob, really, to be honest with you,
sure, I want you to.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Do these mixed messages, Congressman, upset you, and do they upset your voting base?
No, because when you play the clip in context, it's not a mixed message, and it's not a statement that he's changed at all. He said all along that he wanted to reassure people to stay calm. Yes, it's a serious virus. Yes, it's a serious threat. He and the administration have made that clear. We've had briefings, all year from the Centers for Disease Control and National Institutes of Health in Congress. And frankly, all of the members of Congress had the same information as the President of the United States. And so what the president has said all along is he does take it seriously, but he didn't want people to panic.
Representative, clearly I think he was downplaying it at times. That's hard to debate, but obviously we'll have to wait to see the rest of that book, what it actually contains. Representative Warren Davidson of Ohio, who is also up for re-election this year, thank you so much for sitting down with me.